You're listening to Audiology. Support our work on Patreon and be sure to submit your requests for topics in the comments below. The American Enlightenment was a time of intense intellectual and philosophical excitement in the 13 American colonies from the 18th to the 19th century. This era played a key role in sparking the American Revolution and the birth of the United States. It drew inspiration from Europe's Age of Enlightenment and the philosophical ideas native to America itself. James MacGregor Burns once pointed out that the essence of the American Enlightenment was about making Enlightenment ideals practical and useful for the nation and its citizens. During this period, many colleges moved away from teaching theology as the core of their curricula, instead embracing a non-denominational moral philosophy. These educational reforms included the introduction of natural philosophy, what we'd call science today, cutting-edge astronomy, and mathematics. Additionally, the era saw the creation of new model colleges that reflected an American style of education. Politically, this age stood out for its focus on equality under the law, freedom in economics, the principles of republicanism, and religious tolerance, all of which were encapsulated in the United States Declaration of Independence. Some of the key figures of the American Enlightenment were college presidents and scholars from various religious backgrounds, including Puritan Jonathan Edwards, Thomas Clapp, and Ezra Stiles, Presbyterian John Witherspoon, and Anglican Samuel Johnson and William Smith. Important political thinkers of the time included John Adams, James Madison, Thomas Paine, George Mason, James Wilson, Ethan Allen, and Alexander Hamilton, alongside renowned polymaths like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. It's interesting to note that the term American Enlightenment itself wasn't coined until after World War II, long after the 18th century had passed. Back then, English speakers talked about the process of becoming enlightened without specifically naming it as such in the context of the American experience. The Founding Fathers, including well-known figures like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and George Washington, were champions for religious freedom, advocating for a nation where everyone, regardless of their faith, could live together harmoniously. Madison, in 1792, perfectly captured their vision when he stated, "Conscience is the most sacred of all property." During the period from 1775 to 1818, one of the key shifts in American society was moving away from an established religion to embracing religious tolerance. This transition is often seen as a hallmark of the American Enlightenment. A significant milestone in this journey was the ratification of the Connecticut Constitution in 1818, seen by some as marking the culmination of the American Enlightenment. This constitution was groundbreaking for its time. It not only provided for freedom of religion, but also ended the long-standing dominance of the Congregational Church, overturning the standing order that had been in place for 180 years since the Connecticut Charter of 1662. This charter, dating back to the state's founding in 1638 and the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, had previously guided the time. The American Enlightenment was a period of remarkable intellectual growth and change in the British colonies of America, largely influenced by the thoughts of European political thinkers like John Locke, Michel de Montaigne, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Interestingly, these thinkers were themselves inspired by the democratic principles they observed in the American Indian governmental systems, as reported by European travelers who visited the New World in the 16th century. They saw in Native American wigwams the early seeds of freedom and democracy, which would later find a voice in Voltaire's Huron. From 1714 to 1818, the American colonies transformed from being seen as a remote and undeveloped area into a hub of innovation and leadership in areas such as moral philosophy, educational reform, religious renewal, industrial technology, science, and notably political philosophy. This transformation was built on ideas that were not only imported, but also deeply influenced by Native American concepts, particularly a governmental structure focused on the pursuit of happiness, despite some misunderstandings. During this era, there was a significant shift in the views around science and religion. Some leaders started questioning traditional religious beliefs in prophecy, miracles, and revelation, leaning instead towards deism, a belief in a rational creator, but without the involvement of miracles or prophecies. Education also saw major shifts, with a move away from strict theological studies towards a broader curriculum that included moral philosophy, science, modern astronomy, and mathematics. This change was evidenced in the reforms undertaken by established colleges like Yale, the College of William and Mary Princeton, formerly known as the Presbyterian College of New Jersey, and Harvard. Additionally, this period saw the founding of new model American-style colleges, such as Columbia University, originally known as King's College, New York, and the University of Pennsylvania. originally known as the College of Philadelphia, marking a significant evolution in American higher education focused on a broader, more secular curriculum. The American Enlightenment was influenced by a diverse array of sources, evolving over time and differing according to location. Thanks to a strong trade in books with Great Britain, the American colonies stayed current with European literature almost immediately after it was released. Influential English authors such as James Harrington, Algernon Sidney, Viscount Bolingbroke, John Trenchard, Thomas Gordon, particularly for Cato's letters, and Joseph Addison, whose tragedy Cato became widely popular, greatly shaped colonial thought. William Blackstone's Commentaries on the Laws of England became foundational, profoundly impacting America's founders and influencing the development of Anglo-American common law. Although John Locke's two treatises of government is often highlighted as a significant influence, historians David Lundberg and Henry F. May noted that Locke's essay concerning human understanding actually reached a broader audience among the colonists than his political works. The Scottish Enlightenment also played a vital role. David Hume's essays and his History of England found a wide readership in the colonies, with Hume's political theories particularly influencing Madison and the drafting of the U.S. Constitution. The ethical ideas of Francis Hutcheson and the concepts of civility and politeness articulated by the Earl of Shaftesbury, as well as Addison and Richard Steele in The Spectator, significantly influenced the upper-class colonists' efforts to reflect European sophistication and knowledge. The thinkers of the French Enlightenment were equally influential. Montesquieu's Spirit of the Laws and Aimé de Vattel's Law of Nations were crucial in shaping early American government ideas and directly influenced the U.S. Constitution. Although Voltaire's historical works were widely read, they were cited less frequently. Noah Webster integrated Rousseau's educational concepts into his renowned speller. Additionally, the writings of German philosopher Samuel Pufendorf were frequently referenced by American intellectuals, highlighting the global intellectual heritage that contributed to the American Enlightenment. Some of the top scientists known for their groundbreaking work include Franklin, who was celebrated for his research on electricity. Jared Elliott made significant contributions in both metallurgy and agriculture, while David Rittenhouse was admired for his expertise in astronomy, mathematics, and instruments. Benjamin Rush was renowned in the field of medical science. When it came to natural history, Charles Wilson Peale stood out. Cadwallader Colden was highly regarded for his botanical work and efforts in town sanitation. His daughter, Jane Colden, earned distinction as the first female botanist in America. Another leading figure in the scientific community was Benjamin Thompson, especially noted for his studies in the area of heat. American republicanism, which blossomed during the period leading up to the American Revolution, was built on key principles like the need for government to have the consent of those it governed, the removal of aristocracy, and a strong stance against corruption. It pulled from both the ideals of classical republicanism and the English republicanism influenced by thinkers from the 17th and 18th centuries. To understand the foundations of American political thought, John Gordon Appleby Pocock points us towards notable figures and philosophies, including the works of John Milton, James Harrington, and notable Greek, Roman, and Renaissance thinkers, up to Charles Louis Montesquieu. Pocock highlights their influence on American culture, focusing on the emphasis on civic duty, the role of property in defining a person's standing, and the challenges posed by corruption, especially from the government itself. For a long time, scholars believed that the Enlightenment and the liberal ideas of John Locke were the main influences on the American Revolution. However, since the 1960s, perspectives have shifted thanks to historians like Pocock, Bernard Bailyn, and Gordon Wood. They've argued that republicanism was equally, if not more, influential. They suggest that the Founding Fathers drew heavily on Republican ideas, although Isaac Kramnik contends that a strong individualistic streak, akin to Locke's liberalism, has always run through American political culture. The intellectual leaders in the colonies didn't just happen upon these ideas. They actively engaged with historical and contemporary political theories, especially those evolving in England to mould their own government. The emphasis was always on civic virtue, the importance of participatory citizenship, and the constant vigilance against corruption, themes that resonated deeply with American values and fueled the drive towards revolution. Leopold von Ranke, a revered German historian, acknowledged that by stepping away from English constitutional norms and launching a republicanism centered around the rights of the individual, the Americans didn't just change their own political landscape. They introduced a new, influential force into global politics. This move from monarchy, where power was believed to be divinely granted to a sovereign, to a system where power was derived from the people, marked a pivotal shift in thinking. It not only influenced the course of European developments, but also set the stage for future revolutions, most notably the French Revolution, highlighting a dramatic reimagining of where power should reside and who should wield it. The United States Declaration of Independence, mainly crafted by Thomas Jefferson, received approval from the Second Continental Congress on July 4, 1776. In an important section of this historic document, it states, "We believe it is obvious that all people are created equal, that their Creator has endowed them with certain inalienable rights, including the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." When it comes to the famous words, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, historians propose several origins. Some believe these concepts were inspired by John Locke's philosophy, emphasizing the wrongdoing in harming another's life, health, liberty, or possessions. Others suggest Jefferson was influenced by Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England. And some reference William Wollaston's book from 1722, The Religion of Nature Delineate, which makes the case that the pursuit of happiness through the practice of reason and truth is the foundation of natural religion. Just before Jefferson wrote his draft on June 12, 1776, the Virginia Declaration of Rights was adopted. Authored by George Mason for the Virginia Convention of Delegates, it declares, "All men naturally are equally free and independent and possess certain inherent rights of which, when they enter into a state of society, they cannot, by any compact, deprive or divest their posterity, specifically, the rights to enjoy life and liberty, to acquire and maintain property, and to seek and attain happiness and safety." In simpler terms, the moderate Enlightenment and its more intense sibling, the radical or revolutionary Enlightenment, emerged as forms of pushback against the strict, often illogical, and secretive nature of established religious institutions. Thinkers like Voltaire criticized organized religion for being a roadblock to the evolution of human reasoning and scientific advancement, arguing that religion's claims couldn't be proven. Rather than sticking with traditional religious beliefs, many of these critics leaned towards deism. Deism is essentially the idea that we can believe in a God based on logical reasoning, instead of through the teachings or doctrines of religion. This perspective was quite popular among the enlightened thinkers, known as philosophers, who embraced deistic views to different extents. Deism significantly shaped the beliefs of many intellectuals and key figures in American history like Adams, Franklin, possibly Washington, and particularly Jefferson. Thomas Paine, a vocal advocate for deism, composed The Age of Reason while in France, a work that quickly made its way to the US and sparked controversy. Paine's outspoken views made him a topic of much discussion, especially during the 1800 presidential election when Jefferson faced criticism for his deistic beliefs. In response, the Democratic Republican Party tried to distance their candidate from Paine and his controversial ideas. The link between deism and Unitarianism, another religious movement, was quite strong, with figures such as Joseph Priestley introducing Unitarianism to America. Samuel Johnson even named Lord Edward Herbert as the father of English deism, highlighting his influential role in the movement. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more content.